Yes, well, I have a belief that one of the reasons Scott Morrison's so far down the polls is he has become a bit out of touch in the Prime Minister's job, I have to say. He's not someone who was born with a silver spoon by any means. He had a kind of middle-class upbringing and indeed early life in the workplace. But I thought I would ask him, given where inflation's at, if he could name the price of bread, petrol or a rat, which of course the answers, which I'm sure all our viewers will know, it's about $3.40, $3.50 for a loaf of bread. It's $1.87 for a litre of petrol, we all know that. And it's $10 for a rapid antigen test. And that's a problem for the government, it really is, because unless you're a concession card holder, you cannot access those, typical middle-class Australians. So what amazed me, Kieran, to be honest, is I thought he'd get the petrol and antigen test aspect of it, if not the bread, and he did not. Have a listen to the exchange now. We've got up to 100 Australians a day dying with COVID, a low booster rate, inflation, indoor businesses in Sydney and Melbourne on their knees without your support. What are you going to do about these problems? Have you lost touch with ordinary Australians? And on that theme, off the top of your head, can you tell me the price of a loaf of bread, a litre of petrol and a rapid antigen test?
Well, let me talk to you about a couple of things on that point. First of all, during the pandemic, you can't pay for everything because it all has to be paid for. This thing isn't over yet. It's not over. The next variant could have any number of permutations to it. And so when we decided to do JobKeeper, we said it's going to start and it's going to finish. And people asked the Treasurer and I the same question that you're asking me now. Why are you pulling JobKeeper away? Because that's what you do when you're responsible and running a government. You can't say yes to everybody all the time. So these are hard choices, Andrew. They're very hard choices, and you make them every day in a pandemic. Now, I'm not going to pretend to you that I go out each day and I buy a loaf of bread and I buy a litre of milk. I'm not going to pretend to you that I do that. And I'll leave those sort of things to you, mate. And you can run it. But the point is, I do my job every day to ensure that those things are as affordable as they possibly can be for Australians every single day.
Andrew, the point is, and we know we've covered politics for a long time, it's not the issue of going to the milk bar and buying it, it's the issue of knowing what voters are going through. And I have seen leaders, treasurers, year on year, for a long time now, Andrew, have in front of them and memorising the key prices that people cop. After a summer, which hasn't been easy, including copping it at the Bowser, you would at the least think he would know the petrol price or at least been briefed on it.
Yeah. Look, I've got to be honest, I think I saw Ray Martin do this in a 96 debate between Howard and Keating at the time, and Howard immediately knew that a litre of milk was $1.80, and that's where I got the idea for this question from, given inflation's where it's at. So, like you or your experience, you know that it's kind of a requirement and it's kind of necessary to know what the cost of living is for ordinary Australians. For years and years in Australia, the cost of living's been a big issue, particularly around power bills. So, yeah, I was a bit startled that I stumped the PM there, Kieran.
Now, let's look at a few of the other issues here. I'm intrigued by the concession that the Prime Minister made there, that only a couple of months ago he was too optimistic. The tone has changed dramatically.
Yeah, he owned up to, I mean, we spoke about this on the show yesterday, Kieran. I said that he needed to show some contrition. I guess it's whether he showed enough. He didn't say sorry. He did say, look, he named his two big mistakes. That was one of my alternative questions. What were your biggest mistakes? One was the vaccine rollout. Should have had the military in charge earlier. Good to hear him admit finally that there was a problem in relation to that. And the other was his comments that we've been running for a couple of weeks now, where he didn't take Omicron seriously enough. And I think he was asked subsequently, wasn't that your job to plan for worst-case scenario? And I agree with that analysis, but at least some contrition here from the PM. Have a listen.
And I don't think, as we went into the summer, I think we were too optimistic, perhaps. And we could have communicated more clearly about the risks and challenges that we still faced. And I think in raising those expectations about the summer, that we heightened the great sense of disappointment that people felt. If I had my time over, I would have put it under a military operation from the outset and not later in the year.